Hey everybody, Went Empire here. Today we're going to do a long-term review. I've had this FoodSaver 4800 series. It's a 4860 for about 4 years. It was a 2013 model and I've had it since then and been using it a lot. I'm going to tell you what's good about it, what's not so good, and some tips and tricks that you may not have realized or seen, and hopefully give somebody some information on a FoodSaver. Maybe you're looking at this particular model and help you make a decision. So starting off, this model is the automatic one. It's got a seal function, so you just hit the button, put the bag in there. There's an automatic sensor that I can show you in a little bit that you push it in. It's a little bit tricky, which is one of the things I don't like, but once you get it to go, it'll automatically clamp down and seal the bag without doing any vacuuming functions. This is good for, say, potato chips bags, those Mylar bags. I like to use it for my rice big bags. It'll fit in there, and you know, anything you can think of to seal. It doesn't do very well with Ziploc bags because, or anything thinner like grocery bags, because you need a little bit of thickness, a little bit of ability to push on these little paddles that are the sensors that get this thing started. So there's a little trick you can actually use where you take like a little credit card or something thin and push it in there with your thinner bag to activate the unit, and it works sometimes, but not always. You've got your, let's move it out a little bit here, your bag storage and cutter here, along with instructions on how to use it. And all you do really is just kind of pull the bag out to whatever size you need, slide this, you got to push down and slide, and this slider has a razor that'll cut it either direction. And when you're done, close it up and it looks nice and tidy. So for your food functions here, see if I can zoom in a little bit more. You have your dry and moist, as you can see here, and it basically, I believe it changes how long the sealing element stays on for, so you don't melt your bag. But you know, if it's not on long enough and you have something that's wet, it's going to not seal properly, which is something that I've had occur. Occasionally, I like to double seal items just to make sure. You know, I've had failures, especially with these cheaper bags. This is the Amazon kind of cheapy bags. They're not as good as the original FoodSaver, so I wouldn't recommend them for storage, long-term storage. But if you're doing sous vide, like I do, where you vacuum your food in and put it in some like hot water to cook, this works really well for that. But I've had failures in the freezer with this type of bag, and I've had I found it punctures easier, so that, you know, if you're in it's in your backpack or something, and you know, you have your extra whatever, and it's more likely to lose the vacuum because it's punctured easier, as opposed to the FoodSaver brand bags, which are much more expensive, but they're much better quality too. The accessory ports, oh wait, let me back up here, going right to left. You have your progress bar, which basically lights up as it's vacuuming, just shows you the progress. I don't really find it too useful. The tray full button, if your drip tray, say you're vacuuming something wet like soup or marinating in a bag, you have a nice drip tray here, and comes out so it's washable, which is nice, and just goes right back in there. The pulse vac function is something that is pretty handy when you're doing items that are crushable. Say if you want to do a loaf of bread, this unit will easily crush a loaf of bread into a flat, what used to be loaf of bread. And so the pulse vac allows you to basically, you push the button, slide it in there, and then it allows you to pulse until you get just the right amount of vacuum, and then you hit seal over here and seal it without. When it's automatic, it'll just suck until the maximum vacuum is achieved, however long that takes, and then seal it, which you don't want with bread. So our other accessory here is it's in two pieces right now, so I'll start with this one. You have a hose, which is about this long, I'd say maybe a little over a foot, maybe 16 inches, and this part here, which goes into a wine preserver. It's like a cork basically that you can use to suck the air out of your unused wine if you're the type of person that doesn't drink a whole bottle of wine. And then over here I've got a mason jar, which I'll show you how the mason jar adapter works. This is the wide mouth jar. So you can basically just set your lid on there and then push this on. You kind of have to work it on because it's a really tight fit. And this will work with any size wide mouth mason jar as long as it's wide mouth. And there's some pickle jars and stuff that you can buy that'll actually, you'll be able to reseal them without with this apparatus. So you just put it in there, hit accessory, and turn off pulse vac, actually cancel, and then you'll see it'll just there you go. And once it releases the pressure, or the vacuum I guess you could say, this will just come right out. And this is a little bit tricky. You just kind of wiggle it off and it'll come off. You can see that is indented now. Nice vacuum pressure, and you hear that hiss? Oh yeah. Be careful if you have something powdery, because it's I mean, just expect to get some dust from the vacuum that came from this nutritional yeast. But you can see how that's, you know, this mason jar adapter allows you to really get the best value out of a FoodSaver, because you don't have to buy the bags for most things. You know, I can use this jar, well I use a bigger one, but a wide mouth jar for marinating. Depending on what it is, if it's completely submerged and I don't have to move it, I'll just put this directly on here, push it on all the way, I'm not going to right now, and then hit the marinade button, if you can see right there. And what that does is it goes through a cycle of vacuuming and releasing vacuum based on certain time parameters that have been programmed into it. And so it allows you to marinate in about 30 minutes. And so you just leave that on there and you now have a marinator. If you need a bigger one, get a bigger jar. If you need to lay it on the side and kind of shake it around, it's a little bit tricky. You just put this on, do that, vacuum it, and then you'll have to listen to it, and you'll hear it release the pressure. So what you do is really quickly release the pressure and then get it ready. And then once it starts vacuuming, just put this back on. And so it's a lot more involved, but if you have the time, you don't have to buy their cheaply made, expensive marinator container that's made by FoodSaver. And if you have the Ziploc type bags with the valve built in made by FoodSaver, and I think other companies now, you just put this on and it makes it's like a rubber on this green part here. You just put it on the hole and it'll suck the air out. Or if you have a vacuum FoodSaver, say a lunch meat container, same deal. They work pretty well and allow you to get a lot more life out of your food, obviously. So the biggest concern that I had is, I'm going to have to take the phone out here, my camera I should say. Alright, I'm going to show you inside. So that little looks like the segmented, I don't know the word, those bumps there. It's two paddles. That space in the middle is where it separates the two paddles basically, and that's what you push up against. You have to activate the switch that turns this on using those. And so if your bag is too flimsy to push those, that's why you get something like a thin credit card or something to put in there with it to activate it. And that's also the part that got kind of dirty over time and needed to be cleaned. And to do that, what I ended up doing was pulling the tray out, tipping it up, and putting a spoon right in here, a handle of a spoon, to hold it up. And went inside here and cleaned off the paddle part. I'll see if I can see. This is what it moves like that, and that's what hits the switch. You can see it's not perfectly clean. And then this foam seal goes all around, and that's what creates the vacuum seal. And I believe the air gets sucked out right through the middle there. So crazy in depth, but I had to clean all this stuff. There's junk all over that foam, so just be aware if you have one of these that it might get nasty if you do a lot of wet stuff. This cord wrap is really nice because it helps with the aesthetics. Obviously, if you're buying this, well, it might not be obvious, over the cheaper plastic one, you probably, or at least likely, have a concern for appearance, which this is a pretty handsome unit to have out. It's always out on the countertop. And so with that short cord, fix that. There you go. Looks nice next to my Zojirushi Maicom rice cooker, which I can do a review of some other time. But that's about it. I don't want this video to go too long, but kind of an overview. If I missed anything, I'm sure I did. Leave it in the comments below. Ask me any questions and I'll try and answer them as quickly as possible. My channel is kind of a random assortment of reviews and other stuff. So if you like it, please do hit like and subscribe for more stuff, because you might hopefully like something. Maybe it'll help you out. But that's all. One Empire here signing off. Thanks for watching.